Very quickly, we will cover Seerah. Let me. Nope, wrong document. So where were we? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had just landed in Quba, right? After the hijrah, and he was waiting on Ali radiallahu anh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He was waiting on Ali radiallahu anh to come because Ali was behind. Remember, Ali hid in the bed radiallahu anh, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr they escaped and they took the alternate route to Medina. So Ali was still behind. So he came later on. So they waited for Ali. When he arrived, then they marched toward Medina. Okay, we also talked about, did we talk about the fact that Hijrah was compulsory? It was mandatory for everybody, but there were some people who just couldn't migrate, and there are some people who just refused to migrate, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came down with very, very stern statements against them and made Hijrah mandatory. It was fard for the Muslims to do migration. Okay. Now we will talk about like a period, we'll start a period of era of consolidation in the early part of Medina, in which, Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran, they were revealed, okay? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam basically marched to, from Quba, which is in the outskirts of Medina. Now, of course, it's part of Medina, but at that time, Medina was a small settlement and Quba was a settlement outside. They marched toward it, and they prayed Jum'ah together, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led the first Jum'ah in Medina. And if you remember, Jum'ah had been made obligatory before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's arrival, and there were Muslims in Medina who were, of course, growing in number and became hundreds. They were actually praying Jum'ah before even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led Jum'ah. So this was the first time he's leading Jum'ah. And he was riding his camel, his she-camel. The name of the camel was Qaswa. Qaswa, he was riding on his camel, and he basically led the camel and told people, wherever Qaswa stops, that is where we will build the new masjid, the first masjid, Masjid al-Nabawi. Okay, so the Qaswa eventually strolled through the settlement in Medina, which was called Yathrib at that time, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed its name to Medina because Yathrib has a negative connotation. So this is one thing about sidebar. In Islam, names, to become a Muslim, you don't need to change your name. Okay, there is no law like that. The sunnah is if your name has a negative connotation, or it has a bad meaning, or it has a meaning that can be associated with another religion other than Islam, which has teachings, which has shirk teachings, okay, right? Like Christian, like there are people named Christian, right? Okay, so that has implications of them believing in Christianity and following, considering Jesus the Son of God. They should change their name, okay? But if your name is Musa or Aaron or John or anything else, like it could be any name in the whole world, in any language, you don't need to change their name. It's a misconception that when you become a Muslim, you have to have a Muslim name. Obviously, it's so logical if you just use your brain slightly. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his name was Muhammad, means the one who is highly exalted, who's continuously praised. Okay, is that a bad name? No. When Rasulullah himself became a Muslim, or all the Muslims at that time in the Arab world, in Mecca and Medina, did they change their names? No, they didn't change their names. They still had their names. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recommended some people to change their names because it had negative connotation to it. Okay, so for example, back in the days, Arabs used to name their kids with really like crazy names just to kind of scare their enemies because it was a warring tribal culture, right? So one of the guys' name will be Jahil, al-Jahil, the misguided one, okay? The ignorant, meaning just to scare the other party that my son, his name is Jahil, Ibn al-Jahil, right? So Sheikh Ninawi often joked about earlier on in his khutbahs. So they used to call their kids like ridiculous names. So obviously that's not a good name to call your kid Jahil, ignorant. So change that name. So that's the only reason you need to change the name. Okay. Yathrib had a negative connotation. I don't know what it was, to be honest with you. However, that's why Rasulullah said, no, this is not Yathrib. This is Madinatul Munawwara. This is the enlightened city. So he changed its name. Any questions about names? All right. Okay, so then the place was designated and everybody took part in building the masjid over there. There was a pasture. So Medina, Rasulullah ﷺ designated that as also a sanctuary. Sanctuary, yani, is the English word for the word haram. Haram, you heard the word haram, means sanctuary. What are the three haram? Well, really two haram. One we just call haram, but officially it's not a haram. One is Mecca, is a haram. Medina is haram, is a sanctuary. And then people called Quds, the Jerusalem, the temple area as haram. It is not haram. But however, for example, what is a haram? Haram is a sanctuary. What is a sanctuary? Things are protected in a sanctuary. There are certain things that are haram to do in a sanctuary. Some things you're forbidden from doing. What are you forbidden from doing? Killing people, cutting down trees, killing animals, and certain things, okay? And being in a sanctuary is highly blessed. And you pray inside the sanctuary, it's highly blessed for you, right? Praying in Makkah, for example, if one prayer is equivalent to 100,000 prayers. One prayer is equal to 100,000 prayers in Makkah, for example, right? So it's a sanctuary. So when Qaswa, the she-camel, landed in Medina, Rasulullah designated as a haram. In order to build a masjid, for example, you're allowed to cut some trees down. So because where they landed, it wasn't clean land. There were trees over there. There were palm trees. Rasulullah cut down those palm trees and built the building there using the palm trees. So they stood the walls up and they made the roof from the palm trees that they cut. Okay, they didn't have enough leaves to cover the whole roof, so there was only partially a roof covering Masjid al-Nabawi, and Rasulullah himself took part in building the masjid. It was made with clay bricks. Maybe next time I can show you a view of it, and I've shown it to the previous class. There are some videos over here that I would love to show you. Okay, the roof was very, very low. It was very delicate. If it rained, it poured inside as well. Obviously, it's covered with palm trees, palm tree leaves. So it was leaking whenever it rained. But how was it built? It was built facing what? Which way did Muslims used to pray toward at that time? Does anybody know?
Where's Jerusalem?
Yes, they used to pray toward the temple that we've been talking about. Masjid al-Aqsa, the Temple of Solomon, those walls, what we call Masjid al-Aqsa, which is not just the masjid, but the whole thing is the masjid, the whole compound is the masjid. So yes, so Muslims used to pray toward Quds because we were the followers of, we came after Christians, who came after Jews, who considered the temple as holy sanctuary, and Ibrahim alayhi salam was from there too. So that's where we pray. That's where we used to pray. That changed later on. We'll talk about that inshallah. Okay. All right. Muslims used to pray toward. Let me just see if I can pull up one of these videos. Don't like Zoom. I'll send you this link maybe. You guys, of course, cannot hear this, right? Right? You can't hear anything?
Yeah.
No, we can't.
Yeah, that's fine. It wasn't my intention necessarily to broadcast. This is very poor quality video. But what I wanted to show you was, okay, there we go. You see, this is how the masjid was, kind of, right? Of course, it was not that cleared up. This is kind of exaggerated a little bit, but it had 4 walls like that. It had only 1 door to enter from initially, and then more doors were put up later on. Especially, there was a special door called Babun Nisa that was created by the recommendation of Umar radiallahu anh, that women, Umar radiallahu anh was very, he was very protective of women, very, very, very protective of women. He was the one who kept insisting to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, women should do hijab. Your wives should do hijab. Women should cover themselves and this and that, right? Be more modest. He also did not want women and men to enter from the same door. So he designated a special door called Babun Nisa. In Masjid al-Nabawi, you go today, you will still see Babun Nisa over there. Okay. And I'll show you what this kind of is in the big scheme of things in a bit. So it was like this. A part of it was covered with a roof. And there were houses that were built later on next to the masjid. So this is house of Aisha. Okay, so Rasulullah at this time was already married to Aisha radiallahu anh, and that was his favorite wife. And this had a door that went straight into the masjid. Oops. So if you look, it's not clear here. I'll show you better pictures next time, maybe. So Rasulullah then after he passed away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was buried inside the house of Aisha. By the way, this area here, this is where the green dome of Masjid al-Nabawi, the green dome that's on there, which was not green before. It only became green in the last 50, 100 years or something. It was different colors. Sometimes it was blue, sometimes it was yellow, sometimes it was white. So green has no significance, FYI. As opposed to popular belief. Okay, where was I? So that dome is put on top of this house, which is enclosed, and we'll talk about that later on, inshallah, how the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is and its inside structure and everything like that. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam often used to be in this house of Aisha, and he used to enter the mosque through this little hallway area. There was a little bit of a hallway area, and he used to go inside the masjid. That's how he used to come in and out all the time. Okay, and behind it was the house of Hafsa. I believe this was who Hafsa. So Aisha radiallahu anh, who is she? Who is she the daughter of? Does anyone know? Abu Bakr. Aisha radiallahu anh is the daughter of Abu Bakr. Hafsa radiallahu anha is the daughter of Umar. Okay, so her house was back there. Okay. Oh, Sauda. I'm sorry, Sauda. Sauda was there. Sauda was the older lady that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married after Khadija. So that was the second wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then I believe it was Aisha. Hafsa was next door. I'll show you this later on. What time is it?